بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. We'll be finishing up باب الكفاءة والخيار before باب عشرة النساء, the chapter of compatibility, equality, chemistry, and the choice of marriage, divorce, etc. from Bulugh Al-Maram. Before we get into the next chapter from the book of marriage, which is عشرة النساء, treatment of women. Treatment of women. The last athar that the author mentions, he says, ومن طريق سعيد بن المسيب أيضا قال قضى عمر أن لعنين يؤجل سنة ورجاله ثقات. Is narrated, hadith number 866, by Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib. Umar radiallahu anhu gave a decree regarding a husband who is impotent that he must be given delay for a year, and its narrators are reliable. Hafidh bin Hajar rahimahullah, he quoted another narration, another hadith, another athar. He says, وَمِن طَرِيقِ سَعِيدِ بن المسيب أيضا. Sa'id ibn Musayyib also reported that Umar radiallahu anhu, not the Prophet, but Umar ibn Khattab, he made a qada, a qadiyya. He made a judgment, a ruling. He was the leader, the caliph. And that is when a woman comes to him or the judge complaining about her husband and that he has an aib, like we explained before. When a man marries a woman and he finds she has a skin condition, the woman had whiteness on her flank, the woman has this problem, this issue. Everyone understand this? Any type of issue that we explained before, right? The words that we used. She has leprosy, she has this issue with her private area, etc., etc. Aib, which prevents a person from fulfilling the basic objectives of marriage. And from that which Umar radiallahu anhu decided as well was pertaining to the man. And the man who's called Inneen. The man who is impotent. That yu'ajjalu sanatan. The marriage should not be broken up. There should be no fasq. There should be no divorce, etc. until after a year. After the man is given a year of respite. Obviously to get out of being impotent. This was the decision of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. And Hafidh bin Hajar rahimahullah, he says, وَرِجَالُهُ ثِقَاتٌ. And the narrators of this hadith, they are trustworthy. They are trustworthy. So this athar, not of the Prophet ﷺ, of Umar, it proves with regards to one of the uyub, one of the faults or flaws or defects of a man and or of a woman. And what takes place when the person has that aib, like we explained before. That's the purpose of this narration. That's the purpose of what? Of this narration. As-Sanani rahimahullah, he says, بالمهملة فنون فمثنات تحتية بزنة سكين وهو من لا يأتي النساء عجزا لعدم انتشار ذكره ولا يريدهن والاسم العنانة والعنين والعنية بالكسر ويشدد والعنة بالضم الاسم أيضا من عنن عن امرأته حكم عليه القاضي بذلك أو منع بالسحر وهذا الأثر دال على أنها عيب يفسخ بها النكاح بعد تحققها واختلفوا في ذلك. He goes on to explain this word and this term عنين, which we have already translated to be impotent, but in Arabic, according to this explanation, has a deeper and richer meaning, much more than a man who's just sheerly impotent. And it goes to show you that when certain things are translated, it doesn't always give you the full fledge of the meaning in Arabic, or vice versa. You may translate something from English into Arabic, and that's give you the full meaning of the English expression, the idiom, the cliche, etc. So the word عنين, he gives the dabt, first and foremost, kasra, dhamma, shadda, all right? He said the عنين is on the same wazn or zina of sikeen. For those learning Arabic, a sikeen, a knife. Sikeen, the same pronunciation of عنين. He says that the عنين, listen here, it's a bit deeper. He says, هو من لا يأتي النساء عجزا. لعدم انتشار ذكره ولا يريدهن. He says the man who doesn't go to women, لا يأتي النساء, he doesn't approach women, عجزا, of weakness and incapability. لعدم انتشار ذكره, because he cannot experience an erection. ولا يريدهن, nor does he desire them. So it's a deeper meaning here. Instead of a man who has some type of impotence, but as if he doesn't want the woman. And in most cases, and Allah knows best, this could be applied to someone who is older in age. Someone who's what? Older in age, in which he doesn't have the desire anymore. But it doesn't necessarily have to be specific to that person. That's the first definition. He then says here, he says, وَالْعُنَّ بِالضَّمِّ is another word for a man. It says, عَنَنَا عَنْ امْرَأَتِهِ حَكَمَ عَلَيْهِ الْقَاضِي بِذَلِكَ أَوْ مُنِعَ بِالسِّحْرِ. One of two things. The qadi, the judge, says you can't be with your wife anymore. You can no longer sleep with her. It's invalid. Or sihr, a spell. And one of the most common types of sihr, one of the most widely circulated types of sihr, is that which is called a sarf. They call it a sarf. And I'm sure there are other words that they use, classical, traditional Arabic words. And I'm sure there are cultural expressions as well. And when a man cannot go to his wife, even though that's his wife, he loves her, he wants her, he's attracted to her, but because the sihr is upon him, he can't be with her. And then we have the opposite, which is very common, which some scholars call al-atf. And al-atf is the exact opposite, when a man desires a woman that he normally wouldn't desire. As we say in English, a love spell. Love potion number what? That has a what? A foundation to it. Like many other cultural references in movies and songs, it has a what? A real basis to it. So a love potion, a spell that someone places on a man to love or to fall in love or to sleep with a woman that he normally wouldn't. Or vice versa. He can't sleep with his wife even though he wants to because of the sihr. That's also the concept of the unna. All right? طيب. Now, not to go off topic, but it's very important to understand, talking about marriage, when a husband and wife have a normal and healthy relationship in the bedroom and outside of the bedroom, oftentimes it can lead to many other things being healthy and normal. And the opposite will be the opposite. And it goes to show that a lack of healthy love life is never a good sign in any marriage, period. Whether it's sihr, whether it's problems, whether it's physical, whether, but it's never ever a sign of what? Of good. Everyone understand this? And from that one problem, other problems can pop up in a marriage. And you'd be shocked at how many issues can arise from the man in or the woman when things are not correct and proper there. And that's why Islam has given guidance with regards to that type of relationship. It is given guidance. Naam? Khairan, inshallah. So therefore, a man may be under a spell or not. So if you're not sleeping with your wife, you're not with your husband, there's automatic red sign. It's something on your dashboard popping up. Oil change, this needs pressure, something isn't right. Period. You understand this? And it's something to be mindful of. It's something to be mindful of. It needs your attention just a little bit. It could be said or it may not be, but it's definitely something, it isn't something which is what? Positive. That's the point right there. طيب, moving forward. He says here, all right, طيب, khairan inshallah. So we're not getting into the details of the sihr, why, how, but it's well known. Before we get into the explanation of this, all right, طيب, he says here, this athar here, it proves is that for man to be impotent is aibun. It's an aib which allows the contract to be broken up, for the contract to be nulled or annulled, for it to be made void. Just like a woman having this issue, a man having an issue that they didn't know about what? Before. Everybody clear on this? Like we previously explained. طيب. Now the question is, this is Umar radiallahu anhu's judgment. This is not a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu. Is Umar radiallahu anhu's judgment, does it take the same ruling of the Prophet sallallahu? Can you, alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnatul khulafa ar-rashidin, all right? That's an issue we discussed before, طيب, many times, not just the other day. And FYI, for people who watch HadithDisciple, you have to understand before you judge. Understand. If you don't want to understand, that's fine. But if you are watching and listening, then you should try your best to understand the style. Style is not like everyone else's style. Yes, no, answer, halal, haram, right to the point. That's not how we do things. We've never done things like that. Well, alhamdulillah. Even when we do give a direct answer, right, wrong, mention and proof, this, scholar, that, it's always other benefits. That's how we like to do things. And that's fine if you don't like that. And that's fine if you don't agree with that. But if you are going to watch it, at least try to understand it. And not be hasty in making a judgment. You didn't answer the question. You jumped off of the topic. You avoided answering the question, so on and so forth. Everybody clear on this or not? And if you pay attention with the empty cup, you'll find oftentimes the answer is there. It's there. If you really want to get the answer. And if you understand how we express certain things. Is this hadith authentic? And we say there are other authentic hadiths, so on and so on and so forth. I.e., that hadith is not authentic. But it could be a problematic issue. Or another scholar who said it was authentic or inauthentic, but the meaning is valid. Everyone understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? So there are different ways and styles in which we mention certain things. And if you empty your cup, and if you pay attention and watch, and you have a sincere intention, you'll see that the answer is what? Is there. Even if it's not how you wanted the answer. But the kernel and the core is there. The meaning of the hadith is valid. So it's no issues, no problem. Quote the hadith, it's a sound meaning. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the authenticity is what? Valid. Is this permissible? So on and so forth. Many scholars have said this. The best thing is to stay away from it. Clearly proven that the issue could be controversial. All right? Khayr, inshallah. So, he says here that this is the decision of Umar. So, does Umar radiallahu anhu in his fatwa or his the qada that he made, qada Umaru, does that take the validity and the weight of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? That's mas'ala usuliyah. With regards to the companion statement, and we explained this, the Khalifa versus a normal companion. The Khalifa gives a fatwa and other people agree with it versus Abu Bakr and Umar differing. He says here, this proves that this is an aib with which the marriage contract or the marital contract can be broken up ba'da tahaqquqiha, after it's verified. And that is the point of the statement that says sana, a year. Meaning you have to prove that he's actually incapable of that. It may be an issue, maybe a night, maybe how he's feeling, maybe you, whatever, it may be a problem. And it may not necessarily be that he's actually impotent and incapable of fulfilling what he has to fulfill as a man. And that is the purpose of yu'ajjalu sanatan. All right, tayyib. Some modern day applications to this ruling. Some scholars say that first and foremost, due to the fact that it's not the Prophet ﷺ's ruling directly, it does not hold the same authority and validity in which a person has to stick to it. A person has to stick to it. The Qadi has to give this fatwa for 1 year. One may say that was the ijtihad of Umar radiallahu anhu, which is no doubt al-ayn wal-ras, mu'tabar, but it's not as lazim as the Prophet ﷺ saying it. So a Qadi may say shorter period of time or maybe longer. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is with regards to modern medical technology. Modern medical technology in which there is a surgery or there's some type of process or something that can take place which will prevent him and stop him or rid him of his impotent nature. And it does not necessitate a what? A year. And if it doesn't work, and if it can't work, so on and so forth, then so on and so forth. Everyone understand that? Some scholars, they say that as well. Khayran, inshallah. Also, the concept of a person being old, a man being old and past a certain age, versus a young man who suffers from this issue, what the people call ED, erectile dysfunction, which is oftentimes based off of people watching pornography on the internet and chronic masturbation. And it leads to that problem. And many sisters, they complain about this. My husband, instead of sleeping with me, he'd rather watch pornography. Or instead of my husband having the ability to fulfill this, he'd rather do this haram thing on his phone or his computer. He's sitting in the corner in the room by himself. I come in, I'm dressed up, I have on perfume and makeup, and he says, I'll be in the room in a minute. Sitting in the corner by himself. It's a widespread problem. Whether we want to talk about it or not, whether we want to address it or not, but it is a widespread problem. To go to show you the evil of these things and how they invade homes and destroy homes. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And from the ways that they invade and destroy homes is that it causes a person not to have the taste and the passion for the halal. The haram is abundant. It's all over the place. There's no limits. There's no restrictions. There are no parameters. There's no halal haram. You do as much as you want, whenever you want, however you want. And it leads to a person scorning and looking down upon his halal wife. And that's a musibah. That's a calamity, unfortunately. And also the modern day applications of khayran, inshallah. There are many different questions I've been asked on this topic from brothers and sisters with regards to modern day problems and issues. And that in itself is deserving of a lecture series. Okay, the concept or the proper Islamic view or ruling on sexuality between husband and wife. We've done some videos on this before. We took a lot of heat for those videos. However, we did them. We're asked the question. We try our best to what? Give the little bit of knowledge that we have on the answer. Khalid? May Allah purify the people's hearts. Ameen. Khairan, inshallah. Only Allah knows the people who say this and say that. They may be the same husbands whose wives what? Contact Mufti Q&A. My husband can't what? The engine won't start up. And he may be the same one saying, look at this brother, he's what? He's saying this and he has a video on this. Their wives may be what? Suffering from that. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And that's why many of the Salaf, they would say, مَنْ حَفَرَ لِأَخِيهِ هُفْرَةً لَمْ يَمُتْ حَتَّى يَقَعْ فِيهَا. Anyone who digs a ditch for his brother will certainly fall in it himself. He won't die until he himself what? Falls into that trap that he tries to make for his brother. So we ask Allah to protect us, from all of these different problems, وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Moving forward. Ma'alesh Abdullah, I'm sorry. But it is a what? A reality. So moving forward. He says here, وَاخْتَلَفُوا فِي ذَلِكَ أَنَ عُلَمَاءَ and fuqaha, they differ on this ruling. والقائلون بالفسخ اختلفوا أيضا في إمهاله ليحصل التحقيق فقيل يمهل سنة ومروي عن عمر وابن مسعود وروي عن عثمان أنه لم يؤجل وعن الحارث بن عبد الله يؤجل 10 أشهر وذهب أحمد والهادي وجماعة إلى أنه لا فسخ بذلك واستدلوا بأن الأصل عدم الفسخ وهذا أثر لا حجة فيه وبأنه صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يخير امرأة رفاعة وقد شكت منه ذلك وفي موضع التعليم وقد أجاب في البحر بقوله قلنا له لعل زوجها أنكر والظاهر معه. طيب. Now he discusses the scholar's stance on this ruling. The first opinion, or he says those who hold the view that a marriage can be broken up with fasq, not a talaq, not khula, the judge saying this marriage is now what? Done, khalas, based off of the proof and the evidence. Those who hold the view that a marriage can be done so, or that can be done with a marriage, they differ on how long and if that is even mandatory for there to be a period of time when the woman complains. Right. So the first view is that it's a year, like here. And that's narrated from Umar ibn Khattab and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Then we have another view narrated from Uthman radiallahu anhu, lam yu'ajjil, is that he gave no period of time. A woman complains, the man can't perform, what? He refuses to give her the talaq, what? Yufsakh. It's done, it's annulled. And this goes to show, or this is an integral piece of the whole argument of hujjiyat qawl al-sahabi. To say that Umar radiallahu anhu's statement is a hujjah, and Uthman is saying otherwise. This has become problematic. Moving forward. He says here, another companion, Harith ibn Abdullah, he held the view that it should be 10 months. 10 months, and not an entire year. In other words, the time period is based off of what? Ijtihad. 10 months, 12 months, 8 months is based off of what? Ijtihad. In other words, a period of time. It doesn't necessarily, it's not like it's a verse saying 12 months, in which there's text from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why does a widow have to wait 4 months and 10 days? Oh, why not 4 months? Why not? That's how it is. Clear or not? That's the ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We accept it and we submit it. Versus the number being based off of ijtihad. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you have, however that thing is done. Everyone understand this? Moving forward. As far as Imam Ahmad, and other scholars, then they held the view, لا فسخ بذلك. A marriage cannot be annulled because of that. The man either divorces, she seeks the khula, but no what? No fasq based off of a woman complaining about that. And they use as a dalil is that the asl, the zahir, is that there is no fasq. Secondly, they say in this athar, there's no proof in it. La hujjata fi. This is no dalil in this athar. Thirdly, the Prophet ﷺ, he never gave that option to the wife of Rifa'a when she came and complained to the Prophet ﷺ about his lack of ability to perform his husbandly duties. That's the view that they hold. Moving forward. And then he goes on explaining this argument. قلت لا يخفى أن امرأة رفاعة لم تشكو من رفاعة فإنه كان قد طلق فتزوجها عبد الرحمن بن الزبير فجاءت تشكو إليه صلى الله عليه وسلم وقالت إنما معه مثل هدبة الثوب فقال أتريدين أن ترجعي إلى رفاعة لا حتى يذوق عسيلتك وتذوقي عسيلته. وفي رواية الموطأ أن رفاعة طلق امرأة تميمة بنت وهب في عهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثلاثا فنكحت عبد الرحمن بن الزبير فاعترض عنها فلم يستطع أن يمسها ففارقها فأراد رفاعة أن ينكحها وهو زوجها الأول فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم أتريدين الحديث. وبهذا يعرف عدم صحة الاستدلال بحديث رفاعة فإنها لم تطلب الفسخ بل فهم منها صلى الله عليه وسلم أنها تريد أن يراجعها رفاعة فأخبرها أن عبد الرحمن حيث لم تذق عسيلته ولا ذاق عسيلتها ولا يحلها للرفاعة وكيف يحمل حديث إلى آخره. طيب, he goes on to discuss this scholastic issue here, the narration of Rifa'a. Is it a proof or not? And we know that Rifa'a divorced his wife and Abdurrahman ibn Zubayr married her. So she went and she complained about the new husband, Abdurrahman ibn Zubayr. And she said, إِنَّمَا مَعَهُ مِثْلُ هُدْبَةِ الثَّوْبِ. We've explained this before, some years ago in Canada, about the ruling of discussing these type of issues, sexual issues with your teenage son, your teenage daughter. Is it haram? You can't bring it up. You can't mention it. It should just be swept under the rug. It's taboo. The country that I come from, my ancestors, we would never, ever discuss any of these things. And any imam who discusses them is lewd and nasty. That's not Islam. But my 18-year-old son is living in Toronto, Canada, with a smartphone, going to college, watching music videos, watching this, downloaded that, so on and so forth. What do you think is going to last? Your ancient, holy culture from 7,000 or 8,000 miles away? Or your 18-year-old son going to college with kuffar and fusaq every day? Which one, Abdullah? Which one is going to win the race? The blindness of so many Muslim parents and their stubbornness, thinking that they're living in some delusional world. Your son is living in a different time, a different place, and a different era. And those holy customs are not based off of Quran and Sunnah, as we can clearly what? See. It also goes to show you and ask, and it makes you ask the question, what is the intention behind someone for criticizing someone from speaking about these things if they don't even come from that cultural stuff, except for pure hasad. And we trying to glue something to you any way we can, even by you having the guts and the courage to speak about things that others don't, or the ability to speak about things that others don't. This is the messed up world in which we live, huh? May Allah help us all. Moving forward. He says here, alaykum salam, so she, Abdurrahman ibn Zubayr, she remarried him, and she went to the Prophet ﷺ, and she said he only has this with him. Khutbat al-thawb is the what? The tip of your garment. The tip of your garment. Meaning he had some issues. Everyone understand this? How can I stay with him? And he only has what? This. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, you want to go back to what? Rifa'ah? He says, no, until you do what? Taste his honey until he what? Taste your honey. Meaning, Rifa'ah divorced you. After the third divorce, hatta yankiha, or hatta what? Until what? In other words, she has to do what? Did she not get married to Abdurrahman ibn Zubayr? But the Prophet ﷺ, he said, no, until you what? Taste his honey until you taste your honey. And this goes to show you the explanation of the Quran through the Sunnah. So he divorced you 3 times. Abdurrahman ibn Zubayr, for some reason, he has this major problem, this issue with regards to impotency or his size or whatever, he cannot do what he's supposed to do in the bedroom. So now she regrets and she wants to go back to ritha'a. He says, you cannot leave Abdurrahman ibn Zubayr until you taste his honey and until he tastes your honey, meaning that it has to be consummation of the marriage. There has to be what? Consummation of the marriage. Once the marriage is consummated and he decides to divorce you, whatever, you can happily go back to rifa'a. Everyone understand this? And it goes to show you how the Prophet ﷺ did not criticize the woman, right? He never said she was dirty or unchaste or she lacks shyness or astaghfirullah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. How dare you ask that question, sister? A'udhu billah, astaghfirullah. As people do today. The Prophet never ever dealt with her like that. And look how pragmatic the Prophet ﷺ was. He didn't even discuss it. That's what it is? Okay, no problem. But there are other rulings and regulations. Pragmatic. Clearly objective to the point. Everyone understand this? So he says, so this woman, she never ever wanted a fasakh, okay, and things like this. She went to complain. There was a third divorce. So they're saying that the hadith they use against this athar is not directly to the point, in which they say that there's no type of fasakh whatsoever or ta'jeel. Everyone get the point I'm trying to make? Moving forward. And that's a different discussion right there, right? It's a long different discussion with regards to the third divorce, remarriage, consummation of the marriage. That's not the topic of discussion tonight. Moving forward, he says, فائدة قال ابن المنذر اختلفوا في المرأة تطالب الرجل بالجماع فقال الأكثر إن وطئها بعد أن دخل بها مرة واحدة لم يؤجل أجل العنين وقول الأوزاعي والثوري وأبي حنيفة ومالك والشافعي وإسحاق وقال أبو ثور إن ترك جماعها لعلة أجل لها سنة وإن كان لغير علة فلا تأجيل. وقال عياض اتفق كافة العلماء على أن للمرأة حقا في الجماع فيثبت الخيار لها إذا تزوجت المجبوب والممسوح جاهلة بهما يضرب للعنين أجل سنة لاختبار زوال ما به انتهى كلامه. Then the last thing he mentions is a fa'idah, a benefit. He quotes from Ibn al-Mundhir rahimahullah, who says that the scholars differ on a woman seeking sexual intercourse from her husband. They differ on this issue. A woman calls her husband and says, give me my rights in the bedroom, and he says no, or he can't, or whatever the case may be. They differ on the exact rule. And this goes to show you, once more, almost over 1,000 years ago, 900, 800, these scholars have spoken about these issues, and they never swept these issues under the rug, under the carpet. Everyone understand this? He says here, most scholars say, إن وطئها بعد أن دخل بها مرة واحدة. He slept with her once after the marriage was consummated. لم يؤجل أجل الغنين. Then he is not to be given the period of time of the impotent man, the year. So the woman wants the husband slept with her once, he cannot perform, there is no yearly period. There is no what? Yearly period, because he proved that he did it. It was one time after they got married. And this was the view of Imam al-Awza'i, rahimahullah, Sufyan al-Thawri, Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, and Ishaq. All of those ulama, they have that view. Other scholars such as Abu Thawr, they would say, إن ترك جماعها لعلة. If he doesn't sleep with her because of a sickness or an illness, then he gets the year, the period of respite. As far as if there's no reason, he's totally fine, but he doesn't want to sleep with her, فلا تأجيل. Then there's no period of time. Either you divorce her, or first of all, you give her her haqq. If you refuse to give her her haqq, then you make talaq. If you refuse to make the talaq, then she has the right to seek the khula. If you refuse to divorce, or first and foremost, you refuse to give the haqq, number one. You refuse to make talaq, number two. You don't accept the khula. Then there's what? Fasakh. Bel, rather one could say there's fasakh even without those other things. Why do I have to wait 3 months? Why do I have to give back the mahar? Why? The marriage is the what? Annulled. I understand it's because she may have married him and she didn't know that. He hid it from her. He cheated her. And it's not fair that she has to be the one to initiate the divorce. Or to be called mutallaqah. She's a divorcee. She's a divorced woman, which people look down upon, unfortunately. And that's a problem in itself. There's no shame in being divorced. There's no shame in getting a divorce. Doesn't mean you're a bad Muslim. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. There were people that were better than us, like we just read, the companions. They got what? Divorce. This is a chapter in the Quran. It happens. It doesn't mean you're a bad Muslim, but it means it didn't work out. There was no chemistry between you two. So therefore, why does the woman have to seek the divorce? Why does she have to wait this amount of time, etc.? And there could be fasq. Al-Muhim is that there's a difference in the scenario. The man can't sleep with her versus the man what? Won't sleep with her. And all of these details will be decided by the Qadi. By the Qadi. طيب. Every situation is going to be different. Qadi Iyad rahimahullah, he says, most of the ulama, 90% of the ulama, 99%, kafatu ulama, most of them, the overwhelming majority, they all agree that the woman has a right to sexual intercourse. Haqqan fil jima'. It's one of her rights in the marriage. فَيَثْبُتُ الْخِيَارُ لَهَا. So therefore she marries a man who's castrated, or a man who's under some type of spell, or a man who's suffering from this dysfunction, etc., etc. She has the option: stay in the marriage, divorce, talaq, etc. Yathbut. She has the right to seek the fasq if what? She was tricked and she was ignorant and the man didn't tell her, so on and so forth. طيب خيرا inshallah. And then he says, and this man should be given a period of time for a year. لاختبار زوال ما به, to see what is the problem with him. And of course in modern medicine, things could be shorter than that. Moving forward, قلت ولم يستدلوا على مقدار الأجل بالسنة بدليل ناهض إنما يذكر الفقهاء لأجل أن تمر به الفصول الأربعة فيتبين حاله. Very interesting, very interesting. He says here, the proof that they use, that it has to be 1 year, isn't that strong, like we previously said. Dalil nahid is not a proof that stands up by itself. But the fuqaha, they say, listen to this, is that all 4 seasons should pass by for them to see what's wrong with the man. Maybe when it's cold outside, what? He's not in the mood. When it's hot outside, what? Kether. Spring comes, birds, flowers, cherry blossoms, what? Kether. The fall, autumn comes, what? He has an issue. But all 4 seasons say what? The problem is with you. Everyone understand this? Very interesting. And when you study the concept, tight, mashi. That's all we need to say about that right there. Moving forward, that's the end of that discussion in brief, and the end of that chapter. Next chapter says, Al-Bab al-Thalith, Babu Ishrat al-Nisa, بكسر العين وسكون الشين المعجمة أي عشرة الرجال أي الأزواج النساء أي الزوجات. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ملعون من أتى امرأة في دبرها. رواه أبو داود والنسائي واللفظ له ورجاله ثقات لكن أعل بالإرسال. The next chapter is عشرة النساء, relations with the wives, it says. Relations with the wives, treatment of the wives. The scholars of Islam, they say it can mean more than one thing. It can mean something physical, like what is halal or haram in the bedroom. It can mean kindness, how you live with your wife, how you treat your wife, respect, love, dignity, trust, affection, so on and so on and so forth, right? In other words, the men, how they live with women and not mutual. In other words, the chapter is directly addressing the men initially. How men are supposed to treat women. وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Allah says to the men, and treat them بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, with honor and with kindness. Everybody clear on this or not? That's what's meant by Ishratun Nisa. And of course, like the previous chapter, one is his treatment of his wife based off of the Quran and Sunnah, first and foremost. How the Sahaba understood it and practiced it. How the Salaf al-Salih understood those texts. And the person is going to accept all of the positive cultural norms from which he or she is from. All of the positive cultural norms. Positive. Even if they're not directly mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah. And the person has to reject, abolish, and do away with the negative cultural norms that a person is from. Things that are negative, that go against the Quran and Sunnah specifically, and things that go against the Quran and the Sunnah generally. Specifically and generally. Of course, we all know this is a major problem that we have. Culture, tradition, with regards to husband and wife. And speaking quite frankly, the situation becomes utterly messy. It's one thing if we have our cultural norms and we're living in a different country. That's one thing. But now we're living in America. I come from Zimbabwe. My wife comes from Togo. And we live in New York City, or Canada, or UK, or Australia. If we were in Zimbabwe or Togo, it's still bad. The tradition and the custom that goes against the Quran and Sunnah, but at least it's not another element involved. Now we have three pieces here. We have Quran and Sunnah, Togo and Zimbabwe, and the United States. See how messy it becomes now? So which one do I govern my treatment of my wife upon? Zimbabwe, Togo, Quran, Sunnah, 2020 in the United States. And then I have a son. How do I raise him? What do I teach him? How does he treat his wife? What do I raise my daughter upon? How does she treat her husband? Quran and Sunnah, Togo, Zimbabwe, or the United States? Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, all same, no difference. In which there are cultural norms and there are traditions that go against the Quran and the Sunnah. And we also have many of those cultural norms and traditions that go against the modern world in which we live. So I'm not following Quran and Sunnah. I'm not making sense in 2020, nor am I living in Pakistan. How can you win? There's going to be a major clash. There's going to be a major fight. And it's not the worst thing that you can have as a general or commander is a major war on two fronts. A major war, not a small engagement, a major war on two fronts, let alone on what? Three fronts. That's utter disaster. Utter disaster. And the chances of you winning that war, slim to none, if even slim. So I'm stuck now. Is my wife equal to me? Is she better than me? Does my wife ask for permission to leave the home? Do I have to ask permission from my first wife to get a second wife? Does my wife inherit as much as me? What is the ruling on these things in light of the American dream in 2020? What are the rulings of those things based off of the Hanafi madhab that comes from Pakistan? What is the ruling of those things based off of my village or my hometown in Pakistan? Confusion, and they don't know how to navigate. They don't know how to navigate. I understand? So it's a huge problem. So we have to understand, first and foremost, Quran and Sunnah. After the Quran and Sunnah, you keep the good traditional norms that you have that don't go against the Quran and Sunnah, and you always stay fresh and be mindful of modern day things. So I don't like phones. I'm not a big phone guy. I'm not into the social media thing. It's not my twist. I come from the old school. That's fine. But you live in 2020. Everything is done on the phone nowadays. Business is made on a phone. Everything is done via a phone, a text, a WhatsApp, or this and that. So maybe it'd be a good idea for you to every now and then tell your wife something nice in a text message, or send her a gift, or send her a card. You have to conform to the what? The modern age. And that sending your wife a text message, say I love you or this and that, has nothing to do with going against the what? Quran and Sunnah. Your custom or your culture from back home, that's back home 60, 50, 30 years ago. You're living in a modern age. So that's an example of how you have to realize that things are modern. And it doesn't go against the what? Quran and Sunnah. Everyone understand this? Your cultural norms that don't go against the Quran and Sunnah. Where I come from, in my village, we don't just take our wives out to dinner, but you have to bring your wife a whole entire slaughtered animal. That's the sign that you're a strong man, that you love your wife. Okay, alhamdulillah. There's nothing wrong with that in 2020. You go to the butcher or the farm and you do what? You bring your wife a whole goat, a whole lamb. Alhamdulillah. That's something that you can keep in the United States in 2020, and you don't have to get rid of because it doesn't what? Go against the Quran and the Sunnah. Everybody understand the process? As far as that which goes against Quran and Sunnah, problem. As far as that which doesn't go against the Quran and Sunnah, it's from your culture, but it is totally outdated and obsolete. It won't work in 2020. You have to what? You got to adjust now. You got to maneuver to make it work. All right, so all three things you take into consideration. And that's how the shaitan tricks us, telling the people that Islam is culture, telling the people there's no culture, telling the people everything has to be modern and progressive, or telling the people that nothing is modern and nothing is what? Progressive. Shaitan, he plays with all three things. So be mindful of this, brothers, inshallah ta'ala. And Allah knows best. Happiness is only from Allah. Success is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you at least have to try. You have to give it effort. You have to give it your best upon correct guidance. Ala nurin min Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. We'll finish this chapter